Bismillah Rahman Rahim, brothers and sisters. You are listening to Straight Words on WVON 1690, the talk of Chicago. This is Brother B.J. Murphy coming at you on the Straight Words program every Tuesday from 9 until midnight. We are here. And, of course, our fearless leader, our brother, Naba Richard Muhammad, he is out tonight and getting himself together. I know he's listening. We love you, brother. And we wish you a speedy recovery so you can get back on the radio with us. Of course, your trusted friend, Brother James G. Muhammad, is in the place to be, former editor of the Final Call newspaper. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How you doing, sir?
Wa alaikum salam, my brother BJ. I am doing very well. Call me James Brown, brother. I just feel good. I'm ready to roll, man. What's the speed limit on the show, brother? I don't want to go too fast and too hard.
Brother, we can go 70. We can go 70. We can keep it at 70.
We're going to go let's go 90.
All right, let's go. Let's
go 90. And we might send up the bat signal or the star and the crescent, see if we can get Napa to call in at some point too, brother. But
yes,
God willing, we're going to have a wonderful show. And, I know you got things under control.
Yes, sir. We got it under control. Of course, the managing editor of the Final Call, a beautiful paper that was put out this week, Sister Starla Muhammad is going to be joining us this hour. I don't know if she's already
she's
with us on the line.
On the line. We haven't brought her in yet, but she's on the line.
All right. Well, assalamu alaikum, Sister Starla. How you doing?
Wa alaikum salam, Brother BJ, Brother James G. How are my brothers this evening? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Starla.
We are doing wonderful, Sister Starla. You're doing a wonderful job with the Final Call newspaper. And me and Brother James G., Brother Naba, were talking about going through these articles. So let's start off with the cover. Can black and white live together in peace? Disagreeable to live with in peace. So talk about the cover, sister.
Yes, sir. This week we went with, of course, you just stated the headline. That first one, Can Black and White Live Together in Peace, is a message from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from one segment of his 58-week lecture series from 2013 entitled The Time and What Must Be Done. And with our main cover, Disagreeable to Live With in Peace, Brother BJ and Brother James G., we were taking a look at, of course, the latest racist attack on our people, this time in Jacksonville, Florida, when you had three innocent black folks who were just, shopping and minding their business at a dollar store down in Jacksonville when they were savagely gunned down by what authorities are saying and admitting was a racist attack by this white man who mowed them down. So lost were Sister Angela Carr, Brother Anote Joseph Laguerre Jr., and Brother Gerald Deshaun Gallion. And so in this story, we examine the fact, as you brothers well know, that this is nothing new. And when we look at the climate in this country, since its inception, but really recently, the majority of the hate crimes that are perpetrated in this country are perpetrated against black folks. We're more likely to be victims of hate crimes. And, of course, we're only, last statistics show, about maybe 13% of the population. But in 2021, 2022, statistics stated that blacks were at least 56%, maybe more, of victims of hate crimes. So we analyzed the horror of what happened in Jacksonville, and this is just one of many anti-black attacks that have taken place over the past few years. And, a lot of us were so optimistic several years ago, Brother BJ and Brother James, with the election of Brother Barack Obama as president of the United States, and many thought that we had turned a chapter in this country. But as we saw, there was a tremendous backlash that happened when our brother was elected, and a tremendous backlash from a couple of years ago when our people and others took to the streets in the aftermath of the brutal murder of George Floyd at the hands of police.
Yes.
And so there's been a backlash against that as well. So this article examines, this continued climate that we are subjected to in this country. Of course, we revisit what happened not too long ago in Buffalo when you had 10 black people shot and killed by a white supremacist there. You had the story that we wrote about earlier this summer of the young brother, Ralph Yarrow, who went to accidentally the wrong house to pick up his siblings and was shot. Yeah. We had the young sister also down in Florida who, the white neighbor shot through the door. So this is just a culmination of things that we see continuously happening among our people in this country. And so we wanted, of course, to then bring back to the forefront the program of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his warning, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's warning that, our open enemy, they're disagreeable to live with in peace. And for our own survival, we need to separate and be saved.
As the minister described it, as the peeling back of the onion of racial hatred in this United States. So we can't see it getting any better anytime soon. And as a matter of fact, we see it increasing. We see it happening even on police forces, where we admittedly members of the Klan just went and put on blue, and still carry out the same acts that they've always done. So, as he raises the question,
minister,
Go ahead.
Sir, I remember the minister said the enemy is the enemy, and he is not changing. And, our people really don't understand that you are not going to defeat what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us and what the minister is telling us about separation. And you will be separated whether you want to or not. And, the anger, I was in Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago, and I'm telling you, it reminded me of old slave town. I went to a grocery store, and this white woman looked at me with so much hatred. I said, I hadn't seen this in a long time. I mean, I'm a Southern boy, but I hadn't seen that look in a long time. So I'm not surprised at what happened in Jacksonville. And I want to give a shout out to the students who were alert over there at the college, Edward Waters College. They were alert enough to see this gentleman or this demon about to come onto campus and slaughter black students at a historically black college. Now, that's a story that a lot of people are talking about now.
Yeah, it would have been much, much worse if they hadn't seen him in the car putting on armory in the car where he can be seen. And that's how bold he was. And thank God that they noticed him and notified the police as well. And they were able to track him down quicker than he might have been. For those listening, we want you to call in 591-1690, 773-591-1690. We're talking to the illustrious managing editor of the Final Call newspaper, Sister Starla Muhammad. 591-1690, call in. We do have a call, so let's take Brother Art, if you don't mind. Brother Art, how are you doing?
All right. Assalamu alaikum, all you young people.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Good. Let's do the flip side of the coin. I'm 100% in agreement with white supremacy and racism and all of those different things. And you say, can white people and black people live among each other?
In peace.
We among ourselves in our inner communities and neighborhood, and we are talking about violence. When do you think we're going to really dig into the violence that we perpetrate against each other in our own community? And where we talk about the boldness of white supremacy, what about the boldness of black youth, whether at the age of from 14 all the way up to maybe 50, shooting, killing, beating up women, raping, robbing, destroying our own stores in our community, carjacking. This is devastating. Our own community has been devastated by our own people.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear.
Yeah, brother.
I'd like to hear the flip side on that.
Yeah, we recognize it, and I'm sure you're out there. I would imagine showing the community the flip side of that. I would imagine, because that's where it sounds like your heart is showing our people a better way. That's what we do in the Nation of Islam. I mean, there are movements and people doing great things and good things all over the city of Chicago, all over the country. We do have to point out, though, the root of some of the activities that is causing these actions in our community. So it's not that, you don't demonstrate what you're talking about, but on our program and our paper, we show both sides, but we definitely show a root cause, because if you don't see the root of it, you can't dig it out. You can't expose it to the light to uproot it so that you can replant yourself in better soil. So that's...
Let me
yes,
respond, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir, please.
Brother James, you know me very well.
Yes, sir.
I used to do the cleaning.
At the final call.
The final call.
Yes, sir.
And so for a long time, have businesses, hardware stores, work with black people in the nation, and even though I'm inactive, so all that I know.
Yes, sir.
I think that from my vantage point, I don't think that no one that's walking, I just say in the city of Chicago, or a black person don't know that the white person or white people, or they don't know about institutional racism, and all that stuff. I don't think no young person that's walking that don't know this. My question is, and what now? We know these problems with the so-called white man, but my biggest problem is not the white man right now. My biggest problem is when I'm moving around in my own community, and I can identify the white man very easily, but it's very hard to identify my brother or sister who says he's my brother and sister, whether or not today or tomorrow, me, my children, your children, those who are trying to live righteous and right, are we going to make it through the hands of our own people? That's my concern. I can deal with the quote-unquote white man and racism. That's easy to deal with. But I'll leave with that, and I end with and what now, black people.
Yes, sir.
God continue to bless.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Art. Brother BJ or Sister Starley, anybody want to respond?
I want to jump in. Go ahead, sister.
I just wanted to say, briefly, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been that warning among us for decades, and he has often talked about that we are facing, as a people, a war on two fronts. So we know that not only is it the external enemy that is causing our people harm, but he also has taught us that, of course, the harm, the violence that we perpetrate upon each other is also something that must be addressed. And like you said, Brother James, understanding the root cause of why we see particular behaviors in our community. And the minister speaking, has admonished us and has encouraged us and has given us direct instructions, not just those of us who are registered members of the Nation of Islam, but he has issued a clarion call to black people and people of goodwill in general to make our communities a safe and decent place to live. And the condition that we find ourselves in 2023 is not a condition that happened overnight. It literally was and has been a process that has been going on for decades, and one could argue since we were brought here in the hulls of ships over 400 years ago. So what we see happening in our communities, it is going to take a collective effort. It's going to take 10,000 or more fearless. The minister made a call for 10,000 fearless in cities around the country to get out into the streets between the gangs and the guns in order to try to reach our young people and others who are misguided in society today. But it's going to take a collective effort, and it's not something that is going to be an easy work. So I just wanted to share that.
I was going to chime in, too. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that, with Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who was the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he came to save us, he had one object in mind, and that was to raise our people from ground zero. Mm-hmm. And there is no possible way that we can raise our people out of the self-hate that exists. And we were taught that by the enemy until we have a thorough knowledge of ourselves and know our origin in the world, who we come from. We come from God. Mm-hmm. And until our people know that and know that, you know, we each one of us is so sacred and we blood of each other's blood. And we wouldn't, if we really knew ourselves and know who our brothers and sisters were, we wouldn't harm a hair on your head. Mm-hmm. But that we got to have a knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. Our people have to be taught that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see any other way around, you know, stopping the killing. And that's why, you know, the atonement process of the minister, he's given us all the information and the words. We just won't practice it. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, if we in the Nation of Islam, we have we got a weighty responsibility to go out among our people and sacrifice ourselves to raise our people from the dead. Mm-hmm. Yes, right. So who will join in that mission? And that's what we got to do. We got to be patient. Our love has to be patient for our people. Right. We ain't going to come up overnight out of this crap that we...
Right. And we go out into the community in the name of Allah. We have another caller. Let's get... the number is 773-591-1690 if you have a comment. Brother Earl, how you doing? What is your comment, sir?
Yeah, how are you doing this evening?
Wonderful, my brother. How are you?
Good. I know art, and, you know, art to me has the answer. What he's saying is that, you know, as a community, you know, there's a great quote that says, you cannot get better if it's not you who has to get better. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I always hear is, like, everybody else has to get better except for us. And I noticed that when we do things, it's all because of a root cause, whereas when other people do things, they're just evil people. And so why isn't it that maybe we just have some evil people in our community who seek to do harm and hurt to all of us? Mm-hmm. You know, we claim we know what the root causes are, and art has it right. It's the breakdown of the family, right? Racism, yeah, it exists. You have 300-some million people. You're going to find individuals who don't like you because of your color. You're going to find individuals who don't like you because you're part of the Nation of Islam. That's to be expected. But when you have this self-destruction that's taking place within our communities, where our elders and our seniors can't even walk down their own block, afraid to come out of their house, that's evil. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sick and tired of hearing us always talking about root causes. I get there are causes for certain behavior, but everything can't be a root cause. There are just some people who are evil, and it's not just the whites, it's not the Hispanics. They're evil people across the board. And until we acknowledge that, we're never going to resolve these issues in our communities. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you for your call, brother. Yeah, we all have been, I agree. I don't know if you're still on, but we've been made devils. Definitely have been made devils. We didn't come into this world evil. We've picked it up from our enemies, from those who have, among ourselves, who have bought into the system that we are living in, and we become self-haters. I mean, you know, self-hate to me is critical to understand. I remember even as a child, it has been taught to us as a people how, I'll use the word, ugly we were, and that so much so that we ran and tried to straighten our hair. I remember out of ignorance, you know, maybe my parents, they would squeeze our noses so that it wouldn't be as flat as it might have been. To insult somebody, we would call them blackie. So that's deep-rooted self-hate that we have to come out of, and we did not give that to ourselves. That was given to us. Brother B.J. Starler, we have another caller, so I want to, if you all have anything you want to add to Brother Earl's call, and we do thank you for the call, Brother Earl.
Yes, sir. You can go ahead and take the call,
Okay,
brother.
Sister Karen.
Well, hello. Good
Hello.
evening.
How are you?
I'm just wonderful.
Good.
Listen, I just want to say this. Number one, the code of conduct is what the Creator gave us. And the code of conduct is do unto others
Exactly.
as you want done unto yourself.
Exactly.
That's right.
With our grandparents, and nature teaches you that. But let's really, really be real. We are awesome people. But because we never had time to share with our offspring how awesome we are, but they know who we are. They went to extremes to do what they have done.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you right now, those days are over.
That's
It's
right.
over. Carl West said something a week ago. We're in a war, darling, and the war was created by people that didn't start it. Just like the wars we have now. Most people don't understand the wars we have now are for the people in power. We're going over in other countries, taking what they have. It's like playing the game of cards. Our problem is we know about everything the Europeans have created, but we know nothing about self.
Exactly.
Even going through schools, most of our young people take a culture class to make up credit. When everybody else takes a class to find out who we are. When we really, really know who we are and what we possess, it's going to change. The great thing is, I love the generation today. Yeah, they out of whack and they this and that, because what we seem to forget is when crack and other things hit our communities, it took away the big mamas and the daddies and the aunties and the community. It destroyed it. Like I said, crack in college destroyed us. So the young people today, they're not wasting their time on what the enemy offered them. Because if you really listen to us, we'll talk about the enemy, but then we'll run to the enemy. The Rockefellers told us a long time ago, hey, I want institutions that's going to make people work, not think. But right now, even though it's war, and it's going to be war because things have to be destroyed to be rebuilt. This is the best time to ever be living because it might not be our fault, but it is our responsibility, and nothing is hidden up under a rock. But the main thing we got to do is quit talking. We talk. Back in my day, men didn't sit around and talk and call into radio stations and do all that. They went out and did the work.
Okay.
They was doing what they were supposed to do. Today, the European man has always been jealous of the black man. And what does the black man do? Sit, listen to the news, call in, and constantly, negatively. They don't have to talk about us negatively no more because we do it.
Yes, sir.
But
Thank
I'm here
you,
to tell
Sister
you,
Karen.
let me just say this.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
a queen, and if we're
That you
getting
are.
better, we're going to be greater, okay?
That
Thank
you are.
Yes,
That you
ma'am.
are.
Go ahead, sister.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so, Brother BJ, Sister Starla, we do have a guest coming on, but before we change to talk with our guest and Starla, I hope you can stay on. If not, feel free to sign off. But we got Christina Powell coming on. I'll introduce her in a second. But did you all have any comments on anything that we've talked about so far before we move on? And Brother BJ, before you give a little commercial of how they can help Brother Naba keep this program on the air.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We got to keep this program on the air, but go ahead, sister.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brother BJ. I just wanted to share real quick. It was a quote that Dr. King said in quoting Victor Hugo when people were talking about the quote-unquote the riots that were erupting in the 1960s. And one of the things Dr. King said, he said a profound judgment of today's riots was expressed by Victor Hugo a century ago. He said, if a soul is left in the darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but he who causes the darkness. And Dr. King went on to say, the policymakers of the white society have caused the darkness. They create discrimination. They structured slums, and they perpetuate unemployment, ignorance, and poverty. It is incontestable and deplorable that Negroes have committed crimes, but they are derivative crimes. They are born of the greater crimes of the white society. When we ask Negroes to abide by the law, let us also demand that the white man abide by law in the ghetto. So I just wanted to lift that from Dr. King.
That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good, sister. Real good. And I just wanted to add one piece, you know, when my brother was talking about they're evil black people. Yeah, there are some evil black people, but, you know, we're evil by circumstance. That's not our nature to be evil. We've given ourselves over to a reprobate mind. And the problem with us is our self-accusing spirit has not been activated yet. The God within, the self-accusing spirit, will stop us from doing evil. So it goes back to the knowledge of self, like we were talking about earlier, brother. But we're going to make it. So God has promised us the victory. We just can't give up on each other.
That's right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Don't give up.
So how can they support Brother Naba in this effort?
Well, we got the Cash App, brothers and sisters. Please donate what you can. Your best donation. We want to keep this show on the air. We do it for the love of the brotherhood, the love of the sisterhood, to impart knowledge and give you information outside of what the mainstream media won't give you. You got the 3 editors of the Final Call newspaper on this radio show. This is unprecedented. So listen, keep this going. Help us donate. Straight Words at Cash App, $ Straight Words on Cash App. On Zelle, it is 312-480-9775. That is 312-480-9775. And on PayPal, Straight Words, the number 4 at gmail.com. And don't forget, brother and sister, get in on the phone lines right now at WVON 1690, 773-591-1690, 773-591-1690, Brother James.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother BJ and Sister Starlight. We have a guest coming on now. I want to introduce Sister Christina Powell, and I'm sure she'll give us more background on herself. But I was reading an article in one of the community papers called the Hyde Park Herald here in Chicago, and we're witnessing, gentrification of some of our historic communities, such as Bronzeville, Woodlawn, areas that have been places where black folks thrived and some of the best housing in the city. But now, all of a sudden, there's this rush and a land grab to take these homes from people who have been living in these areas for generations. A lot of it is spurred by the building of the Obama Library, which is now shooting up, property tax prices, and of course you got the University of Chicago over there that grabs land every year. So it's a pretty serious situation. And this young lady, Christiana, can you bring Christiana up, please? She's fighting to keep her home. How you doing, Sister Christiana?
I am fabulous, standing in my faith and trusting in the God I serve.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Well, Sister Christiana, I was reading the article, and I want you to just give a overview for those who are not familiar with your situation. In what community are you in, and what is happening with you and your home?
All right. First, thank you for inviting me on. I live in Woodlawn, historic Woodlawn. I am about 12 blocks from the Obama Library that is going up. And what's taking place with me, 7 years ago, my mortgage was about $846 a month, and it began to rise. It began to increase. $1,100, $1,500, $1,700, $2,400. The next one was going to be $3,500. I continuously called my mortgage servicer, and they had no answer. What's going on? Is it the escrow account? Mm-hmm. Is it this? Is it that? Mm-hmm. My mom had passed, and the senior freeze had been on while she was alive. And so I said, well, it's got to be the taxes. But no one had an answer. No one had an answer. So the mortgage that I paid, when I paid the $2,400, I sought legal counsel. I said, something's wrong, and no one has an answer. So the attorney that I hired went downtown and pulled my recorded mortgage. He called me that Monday morning, about 8:37 in the morning, woke me up. He said, Ms. Powell, when did you change your mortgage from FHA to conventional? I said straight up in the bed and said, what are you talking about? He said, your mortgage has been changed. It's conventional. I said, no, that makes no sense. He said, it's been changed. I'm looking at it. And furthermore, there's no signature page.
Wow.
I said, what did you say? He said, there's no signature page. Oh, my God. I said, okay. So at that point, my attorney at that time, he began to contact U.S. Bank. What's going on? They're not talking to him. The mortgage servicer has no answers. And I flat out told him, now, don't misunderstand. I could afford my mortgage, even though it was increasing and had increased. I could afford it. I told my attorney, I said, this is fraud. He said, you're absolutely right. This is federal fraud. The bank changed your mortgage without your knowledge, without your permission, without your signature. My mom and I said, correct. And then no one has an answer. I told him, I said, this makes no sense. I'm not paying another dime until they straighten this out and somebody does something. Now, this put me in the position for the bank to start foreclosure proceedings. Okay?
After you stop paying, right?
Correct. Correct. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. And the area that I am in, my family has been here 73 years. My grandfather, he got his attorney at that time in 1950, who was a Jewish man, to purchase the property for him. And his friend, the attorney, quick deeded the property back over to my grandfather. So the way the property is set up, there's a tri-level brick coach house in the rear. Then there's a 3-unit Greystone rental building directly in front of me. And then there's my yard. So the coach house that I live in was considered the servants' quarters. So my grandfather used his wisdom, and he did what God told us to do in his word. A man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And he did just that. So he moved the family into the coach house and allowed the whites, because the area was basically all white, to believe that they were the servants. But what they didn't know was when they were sending their rent into the post office box, it was going to that black man, the one that's fixing everything around here, you know.
Wow.
And so my grandfather had the wisdom to get it. My mom, rather, it was my grandfather and my grandmother, Lottie Williams and William O'Neill Williams, and my mom, she had fortitude to keep it. 51 years. 51 years. And when she passed, she had fought for 51 years. And so she, basically passed the responsibility into my hands. But I cared for my mom the last 12 years of her life, so I got to see the fight. I got to see how she had to constantly fight, because people have wanted this property for years.
Did the mortgage start changing while she was, I don't know, is she still with you? Or has she passed?
No, my mom passed 7 years ago.
Okay, so was the mortgage wasn't changing while she was alive, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Only after she passed had that you started noticing changing of the, okay. So
absolutely,
when you're and the holder of your mortgage is U.S. Bank, you said, or
correct?
Okay.
U.S. Bank.
U.S. Bank, and the attorney, they approached U.S. Bank but got no response, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what do you still have the same attorney?
No, I do not.
Okay, because I was wondering what was his advice to you when he couldn't get answers from from the bank that holds your mortgage, which sounds ridiculous.
He said we got to sue him. We just flat out we got to sue him. Before he could even start the lawsuit, they started foreclosure proceedings. And like he said, this is not a big deal. We've got all of the evidence right here. There is no way that a judge will not see this and will not hear this. Well, lo and behold, they refuse to look at it. They refuse to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And basically, they're rubber stamping. And he fought. The fight started in March, I believe, 2017. And so for 3 years, and then the pandemic came in. But here's the thing. With an FHA mortgage, you have protection under that particular type of mortgage, okay? In 1933, President Roosevelt came up with the program of FHA, okay? And in 1934, Congress passed the legislation. So now there are certain protections under FHA, such as in the first 90 days of default, the bank or whoever's holding the mortgage has to get in contact and have a face-to-face meeting with the person that is in default. Okay? So now, when I threw up my hands, I knew this. I said, they got to come talk to me. And then when we have this talk, they have to straighten this out, put everything back on track, explain to me what's going on, because these are federal regulations that are in place for the Federal Housing Association. Well, guess what? According to U.S. Bank, their response was to the courts. We're not in that state. So there's no way that we could carry out.
The original loan of mortgage was a FHA, right? And that was your mom.
Correct.
Did it change hands when your mom passed? And is that why it went from FHA to a conventional lender? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
It did not change hands.
It did not. So while you were paying the mortgage, it was still under FHA, right?
Absolutely.
And so you all approached FHA. Did you to seek answers, right?
Correct. He approached U.S. Bank.
Okay, so you didn't have. Okay. And so U.S. Bank has been the only institution, basically, that has been handling and getting the money from the payments of the mortgage.
No, the payments were going to the mortgage servicer, which was Gregory Funding. U.S. Bank held the note.
The note, yeah. Okay. Well, I was just trying to understand, or maybe get clarity for me at least.
Okay. How
it changed and what was the reasoning for the change, and I'm sure that's what you're after if you don't know how that actually happened. And BJ and Sister Starla, you can jump in as well. If you want to help this out or give a comment, 591-1690 is the number.
I want to ask Sister Christiana that are you finding that there are more black people that have experienced this where you live on your side of town?
Absolutely.
what's happening that I'm finding is there is predatory, I won't say lending, but the developers are predatory, working with the banks. And from what I'm looking at, the court system is involved also. Because anytime you put the evidence right there and the judges are not acknowledging it, this thing should have stopped back in the foreclosure chancery court. Instead, because of not just the location of my property, but how my property is set up, it's very, very, very valuable, okay? And they wanted it. They've been wanting this for years. And to them, they saw an opportunity to get it. Because what they do is the developers will look at your race, your gender, your economic status, and your age, okay? My mom was 83 when she passed. I was in my late 50s. So to them, they're thinking, oh, she's black, she's a woman, she's almost 60. The mom's gone now, she was 83. Okay, we can move in. She's only going to fight for so long. But they did not depend on me fighting for 7 years. And I'm not going to stop because right is right and wrong is wrong. Exactly. So the fight now, what they did was they foreclosed on the property and then sold it at the auction.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So do you have a notice to vacate?
Listen, they have been the third party that purchased the property, and this is really crazy. They hid behind the law firm all of this time, never revealed who they were. In April, there was a notice put on the building of the door of the front building, saying that there was going to be a lock change on such and thus date at such and thus time. Well, I sat out on the front porch an hour early from the time, and so did the person that lives on the first floor. We sat out there together, and they were supposed to come between 3 and 5. At 2 o'clock, they pulled up. 2 vans and another couple of cars, and they got out, talked to each other. Now, I'm going to fast forward this thing. At about 2:15, 5 white men and 1 black man approached us, and they walked up and said, are you Christina Powell? And, of course, I don't know who you are. I looked at them. I said, who are you? Well, we're the owners. Are you Christina Powell? I said, it doesn't matter. I said, you're not the owner. Who are you? We're G.A. Roslyn. We own this now. It's time for you to get the out. About that time, this other white male jumps out of his car. I'm sitting on the porch, runs up at least 5 inches from my face. Yeah, you, Christina Powell, you that black MFB.
Wow.
I told you I was going to put you out. I told you I was going to make your black da-da-da-da-da homeless. I mean, this was unbelievable.
Wow.
And you still left her standing, huh? Yeah, we have a few callers. Let's get a couple of comments in. Maybe there's some helpful commentary here. Let's start with Gloria. Gloria, how are you?
Hi, Christiana. This is Gloria. I just have a quick question in listening to your story. While your mother was alive, how was the title held? Like, whose name was it in?
It was in my mother's name and my name.
Okay, so you held title jointly.
Yes.
And when your mother passed, you were responsible for the mortgage. So the bank communicated with you, accepted the note, So the mortgage, the payment was coming, or the bill was coming in your name, and you paid the bank, and they accepted the mortgage from you.
Yes, it was still coming in both of our names.
Okay.
And they accepted your payments, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead, Gloria.
Okay, so one other thing you did say was that your mother was a senior, and the senior freeze came off the property tax. So she would have had 3 exemptions. She would have had the homeowner's exemption, the
Correct.
senior exemption, and a senior freeze.
Correct.
So if you're not, are you 65 or over or no?
I'm approaching 65 in a couple of years.
Okay, so 2 exemptions would have come off. The senior exemption and the senior freeze. So your property tax would have gone up, and that would have increased your escrow. So you could have been short in the escrow, but it should not have been as much as what you said your
Correct.
Your mortgage payment went up, but your payment
Correct.
would have gone up
Correct.
some, but you would have known how much because you would have known what your taxes were after
Correct.
the freeze came off.
Correct.
But as long as it was in your name and you was responsible for the mortgage while your mother was alive jointly, you still was paying the mortgage and the bank was communicating with you, establishing ownership.
The mortgage servicer is who I was in contact with.
Okay. The servicer was accepting the payments from you.
Correct.
Okay, and you're on the deed, you was on the deed and the title?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Sister Gloria.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out if the bank or the servicer was communicating with Christiana accepting her payment and the mother did not pass without her name being, without the property being transferred to her properly. But if they were joint owners of the property while she was alive and she's on title, she was responsible for the mortgage while her mother was alive, she still would have been responsible for the mortgage. So the bank or the servicer would have still communicated with her, establishing her ownership.
Yes,
The only thing I can see is the 2 exemptions that came off the property, which would have made her escrow go up. As a result, her mortgage payment would have gone up.
All right.
Because her escrow would have been short.
Thank you, Sister Gloria. We want to get one more call in before the top of the hour. Appreciate your call. Sister Akila, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum salam.
And to you, sister. And brothers, are either of you attorneys?
I am not.
No, ma'am.
And neither am I. So therefore, I reserve all of my rights. I reserve all of your rights. And to the sister, I reserve all of your rights too. Without prejudice, without recourse, and especially without dishonor to me and mine. Having said that, sister, I have a couple of questions for you, too.
Good.
Ma'am, I mean no harm here to anybody.
Okay, you have
All the
to.
people
We
that
got
are
2 minutes, Sister
listening.
Akila. Come on, because we got.
Brother, you need to hold me over because what I just
that's what I was
going to
say. Wait,
said,
Sister Akila, hold on.
What I just heard, what
Sister
that other
Akila,
sister said.
we were going to
yes,
hold
sir.
you over. I just want to let you know you got a couple of minutes. We're going to have to take a break, and we will come back on the other side. But you can go ahead. Just want to put that notice out there for you so that you can be aware of that, sister.
Brother, just so you know, I've been on WVON for longer than you have.
That's
and
okay.
You think I don't know what time they go to 10 o'clock news?
That's okay. All right, let's go.
Okay, so now, sister, when you got your name and everything on the property, and you said, I think we heard you say you had been living in that place for over 50 years. Did you ever refinance the place?
Of course.
Okay, so now, sister, I am not an attorney, but I'm going to tell you this. What you said is absolutely right. Not only was the lawyer handicapped, but the courts are involved, as well as the servicer and as well as the whole city. Just like P-Ray just got through telling y'all, the city is completely corrupted. And so I'm going to say this to you, sister. Put a homestead declaration certified on your property, and then go to federal court and start the procedures. And you know, I could tell you more, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
I do have them in federal court. We went through the appellate court into federal court, and I am now actually fighting pro se in federal court.
Okay, I tell you what.
Hold your thought. Hold your thought, Akila. We have to come to this break, and we'll come back on the other side of the break. Thank you.
All right, brothers and sisters, you are listening to Straight Words with Brother Nabah Richard Muhammad, editor of the Final Call newspaper, also former editor of the Final Call newspaper. Brother James G. Muhammad is in the studio. And, of course, managing editor, Sister Starla Muhammad, I think she's still with us, of the Final Call newspaper. All the editors are here and are ready to impart knowledge and wisdom to you today and give you some information that you probably don't know about. We got a great conversation going on. I'm B.J. Murphy, and Sister Christina Powell, we're talking with her. But coming up this hour, just want to give you a note that we will be talking to in moments the student minister of Muhammad's Mosque number 43 in Columbus, Ohio. Last Friday, Ohio authorities released a body cam video showing a police officer who fatally shot Takia Young in her car. Y'all probably seen that video. A pregnant 21-year-old black mother. It's an unjustified shooting, and she was 7 months pregnant. And we're going to talk about what's going on with the family with our student minister, Brother Daniel Muhammad, in just a few moments as we wrap up this conversation. Brother James G.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother. BJ, I hope Starla is on. We'll get a closing comment from her in a minute. But Sister Akila, can you go ahead and give us your closing remarks to our Sister Christiana? And then we got Brian coming up
Yes,
next.
sir. And thank you so much for allowing me to do this.
You're quite welcome.
Sister, do some research on the Declaration of Homestead Act and file on the public record your own template of a Declaration of Homestead. Also file a fee schedule and put it in the public everywhere. It's got to be there for some time, and it's got to be seen, and make a reference to it when you file your paperwork. Send everything, registered mail, certified, signature required, to the court system. And also, sister, put a dead relative's remains, I don't care what it is, it could be a ring, anything, bury it in the ground in your backyard. Thank you, brothers.
Yes,
have
sir.
a great rest of the year. Assalamu alaikum to you all.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam, man.
Sister Starla, I know you're on. We're going to bring Brian up, but before we do that, do you have any comments on anything that you want to offer? I don't know how long you can hang out with us.
Yes, just real quick. I am working with the CBA, and which is the Community Benefits Agreement, and the STOP organization. And anyone who's going through this in Woodlawn, in this area or in a gentrified area, please give STOP a phone call at 773-217-9598. And on October 7th, we will be holding a rally, and you can get the information for that at 773-217-9598. We need as many people as possible that are going through this to come together so that they know they're not alone and we're stronger in numbers and in unity, because this has to stop and it's time to expose what's going on in the dark. We are the light.
Don't go
We're
nowhere,
the light
Christiana.
that God is sending in.
Don't go anywhere. I was trying to get Starla. If you got a minute, Sister Christiana, stay on. I've got a couple more calls before our next one. But I was asking Starla, are you still with us?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, Brother James.
Do you want to stay with us, or is anything you want to say at this point?
I do have to exit, but I want to thank, of course, Brother Naba, yourself, and Brother BJ for inviting me to share what's in the current edition of the Final Call newspaper.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have to hop off, but you're about to have, you mentioned shortly, Student Minister Donnell Muhammad. That's my home mosque. I came in at Muhammad Mosque in Columbus, Ohio, so I'm looking forward to that segment. And just want to encourage your listening audience to continue to support Straight Word and also continue to support independent Black media such as WVON and, of course, The Final Call. So you can visit finalcall.com. You can take out a digital or print subscription. You can also follow The Final Call on social media and visit the website, of course, to read the latest articles in the current edition of the paper. And as always, my brothers, keep up the great work. May Allah continue to bless and strengthen you all. And thank you so much again for inviting me to be part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister
Always
Starla.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So, Brother BJ, we got two callers we want to hear from, because we do have Brother Darnell on the line. But Brother Brian, thank you for holding.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Great show. I came in kind of in between some stuff when the woman was talking about going through the housing situation. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking that this kind of situation is the same situation is going on all over this country. Exactly. And, simultaneous. And we really need to be aware of this, and it's a shame that we don't have more attention. It's just another one of these overwhelming obstacles that we're up against.
Yep.
And that's land and being moving, and you're dealing with some people who are settlers. Mm-hmm. They know how to settle. Yeah. And next thing you the enemy in your own land.
Yep. Settle and occupy. Yep.
Anyway, that's all I was thinking.
All right. Thank you very much, my brother, for calling. Our last caller on this will be Brother Randy, and if this is the Randy that I'm thinking it might be, this brother has read more books than there are pages in the Bible. So,
you are too generous. I appreciate the compliment. I think I met you also, my brother, if I'm not mistaken, but I appreciate much of what you all do. And I just want to say I agree with the sister. And I used to live in the 20th Ward in Woodlawn a number of years ago, more than 10 years ago. And she's absolutely correct. And I hope that the people will contact STOP. I think that's the Southsiders Together Organizing for Power. I knew some of the members of STOP, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm very familiar with them. So thank you. So I just want to, support her, because there's gentrification, urban renewal, what it used to be called Negro removal, right?
Exactly.
And the University of Chicago, they call it Negro removal. And the University of Chicago is one of the top groups that's involved. Their land acquisition is called the Southeast Chicago Commission. The University of Illinois on the west side has a land acquisition arm, right, which is a land grab called the Medical Center Commission. And their jobs are just as, is to do basically the same thing, gentrify working class people, black folks, all the different areas, push us further south and west. This is all part of the Emerald City, a White City plan, right? That Daniel Burnham talked about years ago. The Burnham plan, going back to the 1890 World's Fair. So this is what's going on, and it's like the brother said, that there's a pattern. They're doing this all throughout the various cities where we are and stuff, and they're trying to get control of the central cities. Matter of fact, the group that was involved in putting together the Chicago 21 plan is called the Chicago Central Area Committee. The Chicago Central Area Committee. It was headed by Franklin Cole of the Croesus Corporation, Croesus, right? Sure. So I'm just putting that out there. I want brothers and sisters to support the sister, do whatever you can to get the information out there, and also expose these people who are involved in the gentrification plan. But the University of Chicago is one of the top groups that are doing that in Woodlawn, and they're buying up property everywhere, and they're weaponizing the immigrant, right? They're weaponizing, using them to try to divide the community, because as much of this is also political because of the elections, the 2024 presidential elections and the congressional elections, all that stuff. So, but I'm going to put a cork in it right there. Yes, but I just want to say assalamu alaikum to you, brothers. Keep up the excellent work. You all do a tremendous job. You are a tremendous asset to the community. Keep informing people. I appreciate the research division of the Nation of Islam. Really, that's where I learned a lot of stuff, including stuff I learned from Steve Coakley, as well as other groups, organizations, and John Henry Clark and stuff like that, as well as the National People's Democratic Movement. That's Sister Cohen J and Chairman Fred Jr. So keep up the excellent work. Keep doing what you're doing, and be well. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam, brother. Thank you so much, brother.
Brother BJ, I'm going to let you take over after with Brother Darnell, but I want to get Sister Christiana's final comments and those numbers and contacts again. So,
yes, sir.
And the October date that she mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much. October 7th, we will be holding a rally and getting petitions started, and also putting the opportunity there for other property owners who are going through this to come forward and join together with us. That's with the STOP organization and the CBA. You can call STOP at 773-217-9598. And we're coming together because unified, we're stronger. Right now, I'm fighting. My God is right in front of me. Almighty Jehovah. No weapon formed against me will prosper.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Have they announced where the rally will be?
The rally will be more than likely right here on my land.
Okay, good. Okay.
61st and Greenwood. So if you call the number, call STOP, 773-217-9598. We will give you the exact address, time, and everything. We just really started putting this together, but we do have the date, October 7th. Yes, give us a call. We need everybody that's going through this to come forward, because the more cases we can get in federal court, this will open the door for the Inspector General, Attorney General, and everybody else to have to do an investigation. They have to.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sister Christiana. We probably will reach out to you before the October 7th rally, and we'll be praying for you to be victorious, to regain and reclaim your land, as well as all the other folks in that area, in our areas that are being moved out unjustly as well. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Brother BJ, we got Brother Donnell, but Sister Karen had the name of the judges. We want her to give that name of the judges that she has. Sister Karen.
Well, I just want to say, if the bank cannot give you the original document, the home is yours. And right now, they know that's about to be revealed.
Okay.
So I tell everybody, we've been scammed. Okay. The bank only make money from a mortgage. Ask for the original document. They cannot deliver it. The house is yours. You do not have to leave your house. Okay. It's time to understand what has happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Karen.
Thank you.
Brother BJ.
Yes, sir. Wonderful segment. Thank you for bringing Sister Christiana on, because we wouldn't have known about this if we wouldn't put this segment on. That's what this show is all about. Straight words with Brother Nabab Muhammad. Brother Richard is out tonight, but I know he is listening. We thank you, brother, for allowing us to do the show. Brother James G. Muhammad, we thank Sister Starla.
That's right.
And right now we want to talk about this case that Brother Nabab really wanted to get on the air. We just told you last Friday, Ohio authorities released that body cam video. It's a fatal shooting, a murder of Takia Young in her car by police officers. She was pregnant. 21 years old, 7 months pregnant. And Brother Donnell Muhammad, student minister in Columbus, Ohio, from March number 43 is on the line. Assalamu alaikum, big brother. How you doing?
Wa alaikum salam, my brother. How are you all?
Man, thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to our producer, sister Jeanette Muhammad in Charlotte, who made sure we got you on the air. And brother, a lot of things been happening in Columbus. And when we saw that video, I didn't want to look at it, but I had to look at it. And a lot of people had to witness this brutality of these demonic police officers killing this black girl. What's the latest on this, brother? In your viewpoint, what have you come away with seeing this?
Brother, the thing is this: we have to understand, as we have been taught by both the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as well as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that these people, no matter how much they talk about retraining, no matter how much they talk
in Gabon, and there's a lot of international stuff that we need to be up on. We don't want to just be looking at the news, not knowing what we're looking at. So they're going to get into it and explain it coming up next hour right here on WVON 1690. You're listening to Straight Words on the Talk of Chicago. WVON 1690, the Talk of Chicago. You're listening to Straight Words with Brother Nabar Richard Muhammad, editor of the Final Call newspaper, and his good friend, his brother, his mentor, Brother James G. Muhammad, former editor of the Final Call newspaper. I'm Brother BJ, and we are here, brothers and sisters, every Tuesday night on Straight Words from 9 p.m. until midnight. We thank you for your support. Whatever you give it from your heart, and God know your heart. He know everything. So whatever you give, you only have $5, send it. If you only had $100, send it. You had $1,000, send it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be blessed for it, for keeping this program on and enlightening our community. We thank God for everybody that was on tonight that inspired us. Man, I got an electrical impulse coming through me now, Brother James. We had Brother Donnell gave us that spark. You know what I'm saying? Give us a nice shot. So may God continue to bless him and his work. $ Straight Words on Cash App. Make sure you donate. $ Straight Words on Cash App, 312-480-9775 on Zelle. And on PayPal, it's straightwords4@gmail.com. 773-591-1690. Brother James G. Muhammad, what's going on with you right now, sir?
Naba Richard Muhammad will be back on the airwaves, God willing, and we look forward to having him here. Right now, Brother BJ, we got two powerful brothers on. I don't know, man. The radio station might explode, brother. We got this power coming on. Brother Brian Muhammad, contributing staff writer with the Final Call, and Brother Eugene Puryear, author, journalist, just a knowledgeable brother of international affairs. We're going to talk about some international affairs, what's going on in the motherland, and I don't want to butcher their introductions, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get into it. Brother Eugene, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing very well, brothers. I really appreciate you, as always, giving me an opportunity to be on. It's my pleasure.
Well, we appreciate your knowledge and wisdom. So, briefly, just give us a brief background so folks will know about you.
Briefly, I've been, working for the past 20 years in, various different anti-imperialist solidarity campaigns against the war in Iraq, Libya, the U.S. invasion of Somalia, and now I'm a journalist full-time, have been for about the past 5 years, working at a site called Breakthrough News. And we've been, very focused in on Africa from the beginning, but especially in recent days.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brother Brian.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, big brother. How you doing, man?
Man, brother, I'm so honored to be on this program with you and Brother BJ and of course, our great editor. I wish he was in tonight, but we hope he has a speedy recovery. Look forward to hearing him next week.
Yeah, and I know it's 12 o'clock on where you guys are, so we appreciate you all staying up, to be with us and to offer your words.
Yes, sir.
So you're,
of course.
Did you give any information about yourself?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm a staff writer for the Final Four newspaper, as you know.
Yes,
I write mostly on global affairs, the international affairs. Been involved in that leg of the work of the Nation of Islam. Wow. Oof. Going on, yeah,
and
almost 30 years.
You traveled in the motherland with Brother Akbar, so you've been schooled very well.
Yes, sir.
By Brother Akbar Muhammad. So let's just start off, and everybody can just jump in where they fit in. But Gabon, there was another, what we call a coup in Africa. This one is in Gabon. Can some brother, let's say Brother Gene, what's going on there?
Yeah, so Gabon, I mean, interesting situation. On the one hand, very similar to, what we saw in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali. You've got a leadership that wasn't worth much of anything. The Bongo family, 100% puppets of the French. They've been there for 55 years. The father first, Omar, and then the guy they just got out of there, Ali, the son. But unbroken rule, looted the wealth. I mean, at least one investigation found they had at least $100 million stash in Europe in various different places, cars, mansions, all the things you might expect. And despite the fact that Gabon is very rich, oil is the main export. The people there are not doing as well as they should. About a third of the people are living in poverty. About a fifth of the people don't have jobs. In terms of young people under the age of 30, almost 40% don't have jobs. So ultimately, elements within the military were able to take advantage of people's dissatisfaction. The past couple elections, there's been, unrest around them, including the one that's happened recently, essentially considered to be predetermined ahead of time. And several figures in the military who have, long histories, in a way, working with the Bongos, were able to take advantage of that, push them out of power, and, they got a lot of support on the streets from people coming out. But the biggest difference, and this is, I think, the interesting wild card, France, the United States, others who have been very much against what's happening in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, have been a lot quieter. The French ambassador was at the swearing in over the weekend of in Guima, who's the new head of state, the military general. We've seen less criticism. We've seen the military themselves, they've done some various things to make it seem as if they're for France. They're not calling on the French troops, about 500 of them there, to leave. They've been trying to speak to the French media more. So it's unclear if this is as sort of thoroughgoing an anti-French, anti-neo-colonial revolt in Gabon. But I would say bottom line, it's still the same basic issue that elements within the military were able to make a move because there's mass discontent in Gabon, just like the whole rest of, French-speaking West Africa and Central Africa, where people are looking to see any change, quite frankly,
you're saying
from
that
what they have now.
You're saying that there was French representatives at the swearing in of the new administration.
Yes, the ambassador was there. France has officially denounced it, but they still sent that guy to at least observe.
So are you saying though that implies that perhaps it could be same old, but just under a different administration? The fact that they are there, or is the West or France at this point anyway just throwing in the towel and saying, well, whatever the folks decide they want, we'll just go along with that?
It's a good question. I mean, I tend to think that they're just sort of throwing in the towel and there's really not that much else they can do. And since this general is someone they know, they're sort of hoping for the best, because since he's not aggressively anti-French, maybe they're figuring we could work something out with him. But that being said, there are a lot of commentators in Gabon on the ground who feel it's just kind of a same old, given this guy's history. But I think it's a little too early to tell, and that a lot of it could just be, the new president, he's meeting with a wide range of people, including former opposition people. He's saying they're going to draft a new constitution with a lot of input from different groups who have been critical. So I don't think it's a little too soon for us to say it's 100% the same deal. But I would say there's a few warning signs, including France not being aggressively against him the way they have been against Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. That should raise some questions. And in Guinea, we saw something similar. The guy who is the general who's the head there, his wife is like a French cop, basically. I don't know really how else to describe her. I mean, that's basically her job, but like the French version of the FBI.
You talking about in Guinea?
From the beginning, they were sort of like, oh, this is bad, but you didn't see them putting sanctions on. You didn't see them clamping down in the same way that they did on Mali. So it just makes you wonder if some of these are, just rearranging the chairs.
Yeah. Brother Brian, what are you seeing? What are you thinking in terms of?
I think in Gabon, I agree with Brother Eugene that it's too early to tell. One of the other things is that, what makes this, I think, different from the most recent changeovers that we saw in Mali and the most recent one in Burkina Faso and Niger, is that the people, the dissatisfaction of the people is what it is, but it's more directed, I believe, at the Bongo family, because all of this time that they ruled, particularly under the son, because even though the father did what he did, from what people are saying, it was a different comfort level, but it took a turn for the worse under Ali Bongo, and so there's this dissatisfaction with the Bongo family. Eugene said it right. The wealth of this nation is an OPEC nation. The oil is like third or second in manganese, and the people are in abject poverty. And so when the military took over this time here, just like in the other countries, there was wide support, but I believe it was for more closer to home reasons than some dissatisfaction that they may have had with their former colonial rulers, meaning France. And then the other thing is that a lot of commentators began to talk about this is the end of the Bongo dynasty, and the only thing with that, others brought in this other point, the fact that the new person that is in is actually a cousin to the Bongos, to Ali Bongo,
Is that the general, right? The general that...
Exactly. That's right. Bryce Oligwe Ngama. He is a cousin, and he served under Ali Bongo, and he served under Omar Bongo, the father. So he's nobody that's he's not a new entity. And, he served in overseas posts in Morocco. He was like their go-to man in the United States in terms of property investments, and there was a whole investigation around the Bongo family with properties in Maryland. He was investigated specifically because they reported he purchased $1 million worth of property with cash, so all these type of things, but the dissatisfaction was so strong for change that when this move was made, I think that the support is there, but it's, again, I agree with Brother Eugene. It's way too early to tell what is going to happen, with particularly with Gabon.
I hope this is not off topic, but as we talk about this, I'm looking at the pattern and the similarities of how the colonizer works. I mean, we just got finished talking about situations in our communities, the poverty, really the self-hatred, but it's also the dissatisfaction that is caused by outside forces that put things on our communities that cause this kind of disruptive behavior, and it causes this kind of poverty. And as you talk about the situation in the motherland in Africa, about the dissatisfaction, you talk about the wealth of the land. I mean, folks like myself, I mean, we don't hardly even hear about Gabon, not to mention that it's a major oil-producing country, yet you have wealth of the land but poverty of the people. And I was just thinking about those similarities. I don't know if you guys would comment on just that systematic way the colonizer operates and how we're seeing it playing out not only in African countries but also in our communities in the States. It's a little bit off topic, but if you want.
I don't think if you don't mind me going, Eugene, on this
Please.
for a minute. I don't think it's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
The mentality of capitalism and this selfishness of exploitation is what it is. And of course, when you talk about in Africa, particularly with the French, since it seemed like their former colonies seems to be the ones that have been in this wave of, coups, in some people's minds, in some cases, revolution, some African revolution that's going on, which we can describe and talk about. But it is this, it's the locating of leaders who will do your bidding on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it gets supported. See, when you look at coups, we can go back to Ghana, for example, when 1966, when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, orchestrated by the United States CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did you feel you had to make a change? Because of his moves and his vision that did not weigh into your agenda of control of Africa, mm-hmm. of the resources, mm-hmm. of whatever you are pillaging from the continent. Brother Gaddafi, why did he have to go?
Mm-hmm.
All the good that he did for his people.
Mm-hmm.
It was the United States and their cohorts of NATO, whatever you want to call them,
mm-hmm.
gangsters, murderers.
That's right.
Why did they have to go after him like that? Because his vision waxed against their idea and what they needed of wealth out of the continent. And I'll say this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said that the powers cannot be viable into the 21st century unless they have control over the resources mainly found on the continent.
Yeah.
So I believe that this is what we're looking at and then some.
Yes, sir.
No, I think that is 100% correct, and I agree. It's not off topic at all. I mean, I think that the connection is so direct because we're colonized people in the United States. I mean, in many ways, the whole reason they brought us here, whatever the differences may be with the, formal colonialism in Africa, is more or less the same, to create a disproportionate exploitation of, people and resources in order to make a disproportionate amount of profit for a handful of, these white capitalist owners. And I think you look at a country like DRC alone,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Democratic Republic of Congo,
yeah.
$24 trillion in wealth under the ground,
yeah.
That we know. And there's always, more than what you see. In addition to Africa being the youngest continent, with 70% of the people being under the age of 35. And in most places, it's even more pronounced than that. So in many ways, Africa is 100% the pivot point, in the same way that Black America continues to be the pivot point for the U.S. economy. I mean, I think we often look at the negativity that is facing our community without fully comprehending, I think, the level of prosperity that's coming out of it. I mean, someone is making money from high rents and substandard housing. Right. Someone is making quite a bit of money from the fact that black people are, basically anywhere in the country, if not the lowest paid people, pretty close to it, and certainly often the most exploitable. That, so many of us have been, deliberately ensnared in the prison system to create huge, amounts, millions of, tough to employ people, which means you have to take less jobs, less benefits, and so on and so forth, just to find a way to make ends meet and have a little bit of food and maybe a roof over your head if you're lucky. And I think we can see the parallels between the two forms of exploitation, that ultimately the sort of globalized exploitation and oppression of Africans is key to the way this system has functioned for 200 or 300 years. And I think that's why, quite frankly, one of the most dangerous elements, as far as I can see, when you look at the history of the country, is when black people in America and in Africa get together. I mean, of course, Marcus Garvey, great example of that. W.B. Du Bois, great example of that. I mean, Malcolm X, in 1960, 61, for instance, he had turned Harlem into as big a place as UN Plaza for the United Nations General Assembly. I mean, every single leader, anti-colonial leader, Nehru, Nasser, and Nkrumah, all of them were Khrushchev of the Soviet Union, not only coming to meet with him, but coming to meet with each other in Harlem because of what that represented, because of the politics of that time and that period being put out by the minister. And, of course, we know he was banned from France and then subsequently assassinated. Dr. King, the Vietnam War. I think we could see over and over and over again, there's this distinct fear amongst, I think, the ruling elites in America of black people making these connections, not only sort of rhetorically, not only sort of intellectually, but turning them into a real political piece. And I think now
the banner of Muhammad Speaks had the black man from the East linking hands with the black man from the West on the cover. I mean, that was the banner of the Muhammad Speaks newspapers. And so that showed and demonstrate, the need for us to come together and to unite. And
But Brother James, the fear that Brother Eugene was just describing, I know I'm a spiritual person, and many of our listeners, of course, are spiritual people, right, in terms of looking at this thing from a scriptural standpoint. And, the greatest fear of Pharaoh was that the enslaved will, unite and then join on to an enemy and come up against them. Yeah.
Right.
And so this move, this agenda to keep the black folks here in the diaspora, whether we're here in the United States or we're down in the Caribbean, and it's to keep us apart. Or if we have a relationship with Africa and our brothers and sisters on the continent, it's in a very frivolous, superficial way. Or in a very, they want to create this safe space for us to come together, but not to really deal with the violation that we're suffering, as what was just outlined, and the violation that our brothers and sisters are suffering on the continent. We are the most educated black people probably in the world, And so why cannot we be the ones to come together with our African brothers and sisters on the continent and help to develop Africa, and that wealth that is being developed there in unity help develop our communities here, where we can come together like that.
Exactly.
But what the problem is that we, on both sides, have too many people who claim to want to make change, but really they only want a more comfortable place, either among our former slave masters or with the former colonial masters there. And I'm going to say this about those unconstitutional changes, I'll put it that way, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and in Mali in particular. See, the difference is the people in the streets are saying to the former colonial master, get the hell up out of here. We don't want you. We're not trying to rearrange the unjust arrangement that we've had with you. We don't want a more equitable relationship with you. We want you out of here. That's the difference. And when we can get to that point across the board, then I think we can make some serious inroads.
Question on you mentioned the coups. There were 6 of them so far. In the past, from my readings, I saw where ECOWAS were commenting. I saw where the African Union was commenting on these coups. What's been the response, if any, to what's going on in Gabon from any of the African, coalitions like ECOWAS or the African Union or others that might be there?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gene.
Oh, no, go ahead, Gene.
Please. Yeah, so it's been similar in some respects. The AU, African Union, has suspended Gabon until, pending a return to constitutional order. But, what that actually means, obviously a little bit flexible, like if they write a new constitution. Gabon is not a part of ECOWAS, but they're a part of a similar group called the Economic Community of Central African States, which has suspended them but has levied no sanctions. And today, I believe it was, the president of Central African Republic, who is a part of that same entity, is in Gabon meeting with the generals and the other leadership about, what kind of transitional process there can or should be. So it seems that they're taking a less aggressive stance. There hasn't been any real conversation about military intervention from what's known as the ECCAS, East African, the Economic Community of Central African States. But, let's see what happens if they don't act in the same way. Now, what I will say is those states are, if ECOWAS is relatively weak, the states in Central Africa are a little bit weaker. So I think that there's it would be a lot less credible, quite frankly, if they were saying they were going to do this or do that. And I don't think they'd be able to enforce it to the same degree. So that also might be what's behind it. But it seems that they're pinning, a little bit more hopes on dialogue. And it's not really clear what that means. Is it because they're less concerned about it and they feel like it might just be sort of same old story? Or it could just be that they know that it wouldn't really be credible. And unlike ECOWAS, where it seems almost every single day the chances of them invading are less and less, their credibility, which was way out on the limb, is now, not looking that great because they were out of the gate making a lot of loud noises. And now they seem to be kind of quietly slinking backwards as they are really unable to compel Niger to do anything. So it's on that level, more or less where it is. The U.S. has denounced it. The EU has denounced it. France has denounced it, but they haven't taken any real steps at this point.
Okay. 773-591-1690 if you have a question or comment. BJ, you have anything?
I'm from a brother listening tonight. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I'm driving around listening. How do we make our people care about Africa? I mean, because Brother Brown, I know you travel extensively with Brother Akbar and some of the things that you've seen. I mean, we're so estranged and divorced from our people over there. We don't know how to relate, or we don't see the advantage that we don't even believe that we could do business, trade and commerce with our brothers and sisters over there.
Well, I think that, when you recognize the oneness of us as a people, then you begin to look at, in a serious way, how do we make such connection? One of the things I'm concerned with right now is this whole issue of xenophobia. which I think is probably, more prominent than even racism, because it can happen between people of the same family who don't see themselves as the same family, because we've been made blind, deaf, and dumb, estranged and disconnected.
Right.
See? And so I think that we have to weigh what our condition is here. We don't want to walk this walk pipe dreaming,
Right.
We don't want to think that, we're going to go to Africa and, I'm your 400-year lost brother, accept me. When we saw those hands on Muhammad Speaks newspaper going across the globe, do you know how much legwork that will take in reality? Because we got to get through a mindset of being other than ourselves. Africans have to get through some of that themselves. We got to get through the self-hatred disease. We got a lot of self-work to do. See? And then we got to stay strong enough. I mean, when, brothers like, I'm glad to be on with Eugene Perrier, whose work I really admire over the years. Because, he knows what it's like. You in a room full of people, but you're like the lone voice. Like, like, wake up, right? Mm-hmm. So it will take us really dealing with the reality of our lot here in the United States and going after the connection again in a very real way. Mm-hmm. This is beyond entertainment. Right. It was no joke to be wrecked and robbed for 4 centuries. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about of your very humanity. Yeah. See? So it can be done. Business can be done. Yeah. But we have to fight for it. We got to figure out how to, again, not disrespect the need for integrity in the matter. See, because you got to remember, we've been 400 years with our open enemy. Mm-hmm. And how have they done business?
And you have to be aware of the subtle and overt enemy that is going to work against that as you make progress. Right. And the more progress you make, the more intense that opposition covertly and overtly will become. Yes, sir. I don't know if Brother Gene had a comment on that, but I want to also ask about, as these coups are taking place, what has been some of the other observations? For example, in terms of trade, like China is a trading partner, I would imagine, and I know of many of these countries. And as they throw the French out, or hopefully rearrange the relationship, which means that instead of exporting raw goods, they could maybe export refined items that are already, that are ready for sale, et cetera, et cetera. But just that whole rearrangement is a big challenge. But how is other trading partners viewing what has been going on, if like China, Russia, or India, any of those other trading partners that they may have?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, and it's, right on time, because just today it came out that Iran is in talks with Burkina Faso to help them build the first ever oil refinery there. They have some oil, but even to the extent that they have to import things, it will be better for them from a prosperity standpoint to be able to refine their own gasoline with both either their own oil or oil coming from one of the nearby countries like Niger, like Nigeria, or so on and so forth. So that could be a big level up. And Iran is kind of quietly also, talking on multiple levels with, Mali and others. But that's at a sort of lesser level. I would say maybe one of the interesting elements of how a lot of this is playing out is that France occupies a lot of strategic sectors in these countries. But over the past 5 to 6 years, in many of them, they've actually been displaced as like the number one, number two trading partner by mainly China and also the United Arab Emirates. The reason the UAE is in there is that's kind of the hub of the global gold industry, and at least Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, less so Gabon, are big big gold producing countries. And so in a way, that's also making it slightly easier, I think, to make a move away from France, because you're not dealing with your whole economy, you're dealing with parts of it. Also today, the ambassador of China to Niger met with the new prime minister and announced that they're supporting the government of Niger. So that's the first big country to say that they want to find ways to work with them on trade and other elements, and that they're open to also mediating if Niger wants to tap them to mediate, with some of the people who've been deposed to figure out a way to resolve the thing. But that, even though it was a low-level official, just the ambassador, still a big piece. I think that probably from China's perspective, it probably doesn't matter that much what happens, because the Chinese approach to Africa is very transactional. So a lot of what you get out of it depends on how scrupulous your own officials are, but they'll kind of work with everybody in any conditions. I think from Russia's perspective, they do very little dollar trade with Africa. But what I will say is, on a military level, they have very close relations with a number of countries. And I think based on what happened in Syria, I think Mali and Burkina Faso feel that countries like Russia and Iran might actually have more to offer in terms of how to address ISIS and Al-Qaeda than the West did. And I also think that because Russia is in a tricky spot of their own, in a way, if you look at the different sort of things coming out of Russia vis-a-vis Africa, these countries and others, they are more responsive to what African countries are saying in terms of wanting to move up the value chain, have more factories and less raw materials, to have more training. That's the big thing African countries really want from Russia, and we're really pressing on them. More fully paid scholarships that people can learn high-level skills to actually be able to operate these machineries and other technologies when they come in. And we see that happening. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. But I think, certainly in the Sahel countries all across East Africa, we're seeing Russia come in at a slightly higher level of what they're trying to do. And I think, it could be for altruistic reasons. I doubt that, though. I think it's mainly because they need Africa as much, if not more. I would actually say more than Africa really needs them because of the aggressiveness with how the U.S. is tightening the noose. But I do think the China factor has played a huge role in this, because if you're already doing 60% of your trade with China and UAE, or China and Turkey, or China and India, whoever, it's a lot easier to say, okay, yes, we'll lose something if we take on France. Medicine is a big area of that, by the way, but we can potentially replace them, with more. Like Niger gets about half its medicines from India and half from France, but India obviously has a huge pharmaceutical industry and is way more willing to share intellectual property with African countries, and they were playing a big role in trying to push the WTO to relax the rules on that in 2020, but that didn't happen. But, you not only could get the drugs from them, but they're way more likely to teach you how to make them. So I think all these different things are playing a big role in why these generals and other political forces feel like now is the time they can make this move, because I think it's just more materially possible to use all these different potential powers, both against one another and in concert with one another to achieve development goals.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a call, 773-591-1690. We have James. James, thanks for your call. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I admire you, brother, and the other brother there with you, and I admire your guest.
Thank you, sir.
Don't call me sir, brother. I work for a living. But
Thank you, brother.
Let's get down to facts.
Yes, sir.
Nothing trumps reality.
Okay.
Marcus Garvey had a Back to Africa movement for us in the early 1920s. Garvey said, if we did not go back and reclaim Africa for us and the Africans, he said if we did not do that in 1920, He said, we did not do that. Boss was going to exterminate us here, and then he was going to exterminate the Africa. And it is going to go down just as Garvey said. Now, we all make mistakes in life. One big mistake Garvey made, he should have never waged that struggle from these wildernesses of North America. He should have been like Ho Chi Minh in the jungle in Africa. And every leader in Africa, they have stood up to the great white father. They isolate that person or kill him. He can never get no backing from the rest of them Negroes. The president of Nigeria right now and the president of Ghana, they are not even on speaking terms. What kind of crap that is? Then they just assassinated a brother who tried to stand up to him over there. I forgot the country he was in. He just was assassinated. People down in South Africa in the darn food line. People down there dying in South Africa trying to steal electricity. People trying to get in there just to get a crumb, dying.
Yes, sir.
And Negroes talking about Mandela. Listen, brother, it is over for Africa. If you want to save your life, get out and try to go somewhere and save your life. Game over. The Russian, the Chinese, all them Caucasian is together.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother James.
That's why they killed Gaddafi. They're not going to allow nobody to go in there and bring you up.
That is the
Thank
truth.
you, brother.
Thank you, my man. Thank you. Any comments on that?
Well, I think, again, I think the most important part of that is we have to deal with reality.
Mm-hmm.
And, and again, I mean, I'm not trying to take it to some ethereal level of fantasy, but until we deal with the mindset of what we became, there will always be a problem, even in the relationship. One of the things I learned being in Ghana for those years and traveling and interacting with the continent, the importance of what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about in terms of our mental and spiritual resurrection, which is critical.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we already have a history of what happened when we went back.
Mm-hmm.
We went back to Liberia in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And the main problem between the people, the friction in Liberia, that even led to the bloodshed over the years was this difference between the indigenous Liberian and what we call the Americo-Liberian. Mm-hmm. Because when we got there, we didn't see each other.
Yeah.
We saw Africa through the mental image of the mental damage that we incurred.
Exactly.
So we saw them through the eyes of our slave master, and the only paradigm of rule that we had was the plantation.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to deal with reality, and it has to be dealt with on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said earlier why xenophobia is a hell of a disease.
Mm-hmm.
Because it interferes with the important legwork that has to get done to bring people together to deal with our collective enemy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, you see, African brothers and sisters using whitening cream or riding through. I remember in Ghana how we just saw these huge posters of the white Jesus. So, everybody's mind has been messed up. So, bringing messed up minds together just results in a messed up situation. So that's why we call the mosque the Re-Education and Retraining Center. So that's what needs to happen to all of us, actually. Okay, so brother,
the key is we can't overcome. That's the key that I want to make.
Oh no, we're going to.
The key is we can, because we're going to win.
We're going to win. Oh, no doubt about that.
That's right.
No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, sir. So we're almost coming up on the last few minutes. Want to get some closing comments, a couple of minutes from each of you guys if you want, and whatever contact info you want to put out. Let's start with you, Brother Eugene. And thanks,
yes,
and thanks for
absolutely.
being on, so willing to come on.
No, thank y'all. And as always, brothers, I'm honored to be here and honored to be alongside Brian Muhammad, whose work I can't recommend any more higher for people who are reading the final call, which I'm sure is everyone listening to this. But if you're not, you should.
That's right.
But I would say my final thought is just, this is a momentous moment for Africa. I think a lot of people, myself included, were, not expecting this to happen when it happened. I mean, maybe, could it happen? But to see, some of not only the neo-colonial relationships pushed out, but in the places where it wasn't supposed to happen, like Niger, no one was really clocking that. So I think that in and of itself speaks to how momentous it is. I think we've seen the reaction to Africans here in the United States rising up. So it's, to go back to one of our earlier themes, probably not rocket science. They don't want us to know that much about it or what's really going on because they might be afraid people will take some lessons. But perhaps we should take some lessons. And I think more than anything, the fearlessness to do what's right, even when the stakes are high, which is, I think, what we're seeing in many of these countries, and is deeply respectful. And we'll keep doing everything we can to cover it at Breakthrough News. We're trying to arrange some trips and see if we can get over there to some of these countries. So you can check us out at breakthroughnews.org, breakthroughnews.org, and that'll take you to our YouTube, which is youtube.com/breakthroughnews, all our social media, all the videos and interviews we're doing on this. And, we'll just keep pushing forward and try to bring people as much information as we can live and direct from the continent.
Yes, sir. Okay. We just got a quick call. I don't know if it might be for you, Eugene, so hold on one second. Thank you for calling, Anita. You got about a minute to ask your question?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Between the one guy that just got off and this guy, I feel like I'm going into a nightmare before I go to sleep. Lord, we got some work to do, don't we? And some hard praying and some real faith to keep. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. I'm just tormented by listening to all of that. But I'm so glad I heard it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we don't have good housing here. It's way overpriced, and they're putting people from different countries that don't know how to live, progressive around us, and they have all those problems. It's just, white people don't know how to run things. They got to go because they just don't know nothing.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway.
Anita, thank you. Have a wonderful sleep. Dream about this show, and we'll talk to you on the next one. And real quickly, Rebecca, how are you?
All
real
right,
quickly.
I wanted to know, do we have any... Can you hear me, dear?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know, do we have anybody that specializes in AI and, that would be able to help us locate different things that are happening throughout our system? Like if they're a class or something. I understand they're having these security classes that help us find out who people are. Like even those police officers, like we don't even know who they are that killed that girl in the car.
Right.
Do we have that set up?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your call.
Okay.
Appreciate you calling. I don't know if Eugene, if you have a comment on that, and Brian, then we can let you give your last few minutes. But do we have, I guess, a way to research these kinds of things that anybody can mention real quickly?
Quickly, yes, we do. It's very difficult. It's not easy. Some of it is, legal. You can do Freedom of Information Act requests. Some of it's searching online and knowing how to do that. And those are some of the things I think, media organizations like, what both Brian and I are doing, we're trying to always uncover. And that's why we need people to support us to be able to get the right, equipment and experts and things like that. But we can turn over some of these rocks, and I think are already doing it to some degree. So I would say support your black media, support your independent media, and it'll get you part of the way there.
Yeah, look into some media organizations, and they can give you some guidance on some of that. Brother Brian, What say you in the last minute and a half?
Well, let's just keep pushing, and know again that we're going to win. There's no time in the history of oppressed versus oppressor where the oppressed remain on the bottom. And we're living in a time of universal change. There's a intensifying cry for justice throughout the world, and this is why we see the level of reaction among the people in these places that had these coups for not just a better place with their historical enemy, but they want the enemy out, and they want to push to do for self. And it is young people who are involved in this, but I believe that it's the spirit of God and the spirit of universal and permanent change that is happening. So we're at a juncture in history where it's no turning back. We're not going to repeat the negative. It's going to happen. It's on its way.
It's on its
and
way.
so I say that, and so I'm saying to people who struggle, don't let up, and stay strong with it, because we will win.
Yes, sir.
It's destined.
All right, my brother.
That's right.
Brother Eugene and Brother Brian, thank you all for being on. I thank you, Brother BJ. I'm going to give you the last minute and a half because you got all the information. But I want to thank the audience for listening, and please stay in support of this program. And next week, and God willing, the flamethrower will be right back at this microphone. That'll be Brother Naba Richard Muhammad. Brother BJ?
That's right. He ain't in the Bat Cave. He in the Crescent Cave.
In the Crescent Cave. That's right.
In the Crescent Cave getting healed.
Yes, sir.
Brothers and sisters, we thank y'all so much. Great job tonight, Brother James, as always. And thank y'all, brothers, and everybody for being on the show. $ Straight Words Cash App, $ Straight Words Cash App. Also on Zelle, 312-480-9775 on Zelle. And on PayPal, Straight Words, the number 4 at gmail.com. I want to thank our great producer, Sister Jeanette, Muhammad out of Charlotte. Deontay, thank you so much, brother, for what you do, making us sound good.
Yes, sir.
We thank you so much. And I want to leave you with this. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Seek refuge in the Lord of the world. He got us, brothers and sisters. Like Brother Brian said, this is our time. This is our time.
Amen.
And the enemy, he on our time. So don't let him take up no more time, because his time is up.